Well, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna share my screen. Okay. Luckily, I remembered to share my screen because I'll tell you, sometimes I just forget.
Okay.
And then somebody has to tell me, hey, you didn't share your screen.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
You're a human being. You forget sometimes, right?
You just forget. And on my side, it doesn't look all that different. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So
Okay,
sometimes I
cool.
just forget, but I remember today.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
so what we're going to be getting into is we're going to be talking about when you're working with buyers, going from the point where you have a buyer lead, you've, to talk to somebody maybe on the phone, maybe you met them at an open house, maybe it was an online lead. That's actually pretty common. And getting from that point to where you just maybe have only their name and phone number all the way until you have a buyer under contract, like a buyer, like an agreement signed. Okay, and that's a really important part of the process. And it's also something that anybody who's a newer agent, most often people are working with a buyer as their first transaction. That's pretty common. So that's why we're focusing so much on buyers, but not everybody. A lot of our agents have their first client is a listing, so that's why here we have a lot of coaching and things to walk people through everything. Shakira, you're going to want to attend something called Ignite pretty soon, and Michael, I hope you'll join us and attend it too.
Which one is that?
It's called Ignite. So
Okay.
once you part of Legacy, once you join our brokerage, we have this class called Ignite. It's throughout, Keller Williams all over uses it, and it's really just helping agents get everything kind of you didn't learn in real estate school about how to be a real estate agent. So it's a great course, and actually the slides we're going to see today are from Ignite. Ignite it's a 13 series class. It's multiple hours. So we're just doing kind of just a tiny bit of it, just a little bit of a teaser, and Ignite, we're going to start teaching that in September. So it'll be good. Yeah, good. All right. Let me do it. All right. I have a great quote here. The right approach to close for a meeting is the only approach. Just ask for it. Sometimes we're kind of afraid to ask for that appointment, or we don't think we can get them to do it. And so we don't even ask. But that's one of the things that's going to be so important, is making sure that we are trying to move that transaction forward, trying to get that buyer to go have an appointment and meet with us. All right, we're going to spend a little time on this. This is the model of lead generation, and we're looking at what is an A buyer. And this is a graphic that comes from, there's a couple of books that Gary Keller has written that we use quite a bit here. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent and Shift, and you'll see a graphic like this in these books. And this is just kind of showing what happens with a lead. So when it starts out, we do some either prospecting or marketing, and we get a lead. So some of us do Facebook advertising to get leads. I like to do Facebook advertising. I find people there. Some of us might hold an open house. We might do a home buyer seminar. We might put up a billboard. There's a lot of different ways that you could seek to find people who are interested in buying or selling a home. Maybe if you're looking for buyers, you go to an apartment complex and, leave something at every door about buying a home, or maybe you, have some kind of raffle at I did one at the House and Town Festival. It could be anything. But either way, you get people that you have their contact information. I have their name, maybe a phone number, maybe an email. I just need some way of contacting them. And that we call that a lead when I'm not really in two-way communication with them. I just have their contact info, and now it's my job to follow up with it. There's an interesting statistic. I might be getting this wrong. I'm going to try. I'll do it close. If I'm not exact, it's pretty close. But something like 80% of people say that they would use the same real estate agent again. So if they bought a home or sold a home, about 80% of them say that they like their real estate agent and would use them again. Guess how many people actually do?
Less than 20%.
That's pretty good. What do you think, Shakira?
I want to say the same, more or less.
You're both right. We're both correct. It's 17%.
Wait.
Yeah, isn't that crazy though? Like, I just think, what are we doing? You know, if we had a great transaction, here's what's happening though, is between when somebody buys a house and then when they go to move and buy again, it might be 5 years, it might be 7 years, it might be some time. And what real estate agents are doing is they're not following up.
Yep. Yep.
So by the time it gets to that point, that person has forgotten who they are and they're just using another real estate agent.
Yep.
Okay, so it's follow-up is so important. The same way it's important to follow up with somebody that you've already had a transaction with, same thing with a brand new lead. We have a something called a smart plan that we use that Michael, you'll learn about later, but it's a way of kind of automating our systems. And when we have a new lead, we try to contact them 10 times in 5 days. Okay, 10 times in 5 days. A lot of people think, oh boy, aren't I going to be a pest? But the thing is, people are busy. They don't always hear it. I don't necessarily leave a message every time, but 10 times in 5 days is really what it takes. And statistics show that it's really at about the 5th contact that you actually reach somebody. So the mistake that a lot of real estate agents do is they get this online lead, they get this open house lead, whatever it is, they call them once or twice, the person never returns their call, and they give up. And it ends there, right? But if we continue to follow up, continue to, you know, maybe it's not twice a week after a while, maybe it's just eventually weekly or monthly, or you're emailing or texting or whatever it is. Eventually we want to get to where we have a real estate conversation. And at that point, that person goes from a lead to a contact. So we call it a contact when we're in two-way communication with that person. Okay, so sometimes that takes a while, you know, so we kind of have to make sure we set our expectations correctly so we're not just giving up too soon. From the point where we have a contact, when we're in two-way communication, then we need to really just strengthen the relationship we have with that person until we can get to the point where they are ready to do a transaction, where they're ready to buy or sell. And that can take a long time. Can you think of any reasons why somebody might not immediately want to talk to you? Got one more person coming in. What are some reasons you think that doesn't happen automatically?
Maybe just fear. They may think they may not be able to get approved for the type of property they're looking for, so they have that fear of reaching out.
Right. Fear, I love it. I totally agree. Sometimes people think my credit's not that good. You know, I don't make enough money. I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it. I'm afraid to call. I love it. You're right. Any other thoughts?
Procrastination.
Procrastination, absolutely. You've got another full-time job, you're busy, just don't get around to it. And then you forget about who the person is. Yeah, absolutely. Could be any of those things. A lot of times, even once I have a contact, you know, they're just not ready to, their credit's not good, their lease isn't up yet, their kids are gonna be in school until they don't want to move till next spring. There could be a lot of reasons they're not ready, you know, but eventually we hope to get them at that point where they're ready to, when they're ready to do a transaction, we want to be there. Hey, Olivia just walked in. Oh, welcome, Olivia. I don't know if you can hear me, Olivia.
Hello. Yes, I can hear.
Hey, good. Good. Can you just, I'm Kirsten, and we have Michael and Shakira in here, and Shakira's already joined Keller Williams Legacy. Will you just give a 1-sentence introduction? I'm just trying to make sure everybody knows each other a little.
Yes, I'm Olivia. I am currently a leasing professional, And I haven't finished taking my test yet. I have one portion to take and then I'll
Yeah.
officially become a realtor.
Look, it's totally fine to come in here and take classes while you're still taking the test. A lot of people do. You know,
Okay.
it's funny because what we find is, you know, the real estate course, there's so much that you're learning in there, but so little of it is what you need day to day as a realtor. You know, so that's what we're trying to do, is provide lots of information, lots of help, and lots of, you know, content for what people need when they're actually a realtor. So here we're talking about leads, going into contacts, and then getting ready for conversion.
Okay.
And so, and I'll tell you, I sometimes, some types of leads, like if I meet someone at an open house, they're probably gonna be ready to buy a house, maybe 3 months, 6 months, something like that. If I get an online lead, it could be more than a year before they're ready. And so what we've been talking about is how important it is to consistently follow up, follow up, follow up. We have something here that we use called a SMART plan. And what Keller Williams agents do is we use this SMART plan to help us follow up, help us remember, you know, so I can have my SMART plan remind me to call the person who came to my open house so that I don't forget them and I keep trying to reach them. Same thing with my past clients. I call them quarterly just so they remember who I am. All right, then continuing at this loop, once they transact, once they buy their house, once they sell their house, 5 to 7 years, maybe 10 years, they may be ready to do it again. And so we talked about how important it is at that point to just stay in communication. You know, it's real estate is all about relationships, truly about relationships.
Yep,
And
yep.
by staying in communication, then when they're ready to transact again, they remember who we are and call us. And often we get referrals. I get a good number of referrals. So like, for example, if I have a friend, Kathleen, and she wanted to buy a house. I took her, she bought a house last summer. Now she has a friend who wants to buy a house and she remembered me and she called me and now I'm working with her friend, you know, so it's so important. The way I kind of look at it is it's so hard to get the name and phone number and email for a person that if we don't consistently follow up, we're really wasting all that time because then it just goes to nothing, you know? All right. Buyer service cycle. So this is sort of this is what happens with a buyer. Okay, so first, number one, I have a lead that I got somewhere and my goal is to get an appointment. Okay, and what we call it here is a buyer strategy session when it's a buyer, because maybe that person isn't even sure they can afford it yet. They don't know what their credit is. They don't know what their buying power is. So we want to have an appointment with them to assess what their needs are, assess what their situation is, refer them to a lender, right? So the lender can work with them and find out what their buying power is, but so that we can understand their motivation. Once that buyer is pre-approved, and we're going to have this buyer consultation. Okay, so as you see, number 2 is prepare for the buyer consultation. To prepare for that, we're going to prepare a packet of information that we're going to bring to the buyer to explain the process to them. But more importantly, find out what they're looking for in a house. Do they need a certain number of bedrooms, that kind of thing. We're going to come back to that in a minute. And then we hold a buyer consultation. Most of the time we do that in person. Sometimes it's on Zoom. But that's the point where we're trying to really get a good grasp on what they're looking for. And then we start shopping. Then we start looking at homes. I was just doing that with a buyer yesterday. So we go into some homes, we're checking them out, we're seeing what they like, finding out what works, what doesn't. Eventually they'll have a house, they love it, they make an offer, and it's accepted. At that point, we are under contract. We might have to negotiate that contract. So maybe there's a list price here, maybe my buyer wants to offer lower. Or in this situation, the way it is today, Maybe there are 10 offers on the house and my buyer offered above asking and it wins it. You know, that can happen for sure. Once we're under contract, then we go to an inspection. We have to get past that inspection hurdle. Maybe there's some things that come up. Maybe the seller has to fix some things. Maybe they'll agree to that. Once the inspection is done, then we go to appraisal. Is the house worth what the buyer is paying for it? If it's not worth the buyer is paying for it, the bank is not going to want to loan the money, so we need the appraisal. Title has to be clear. Loan has to be approved. Once all of those things are done, then we can go to closing. The buyer buys that house, and then it starts over again for us. We stay in contact with that buyer regularly, giving them items of value so that they remember us when they're ready to buy again. Any thoughts so far before I keep moving on? Thoughts, questions, comments? Nope. Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Feel free to interrupt me. All right, some keys to converting your A buyers. And by an A buyer, we mean somebody who really is ready, willing, and able to do so right now. You know, so they got their credit is good enough to get a loan. They've got enough cash for a down payment, that kind of thing. Okay, so first of all, I want to respond right away to lead inquiries. And by right away, we really ought to be calling when someone inquires, we ought to be calling like in 5 minutes. Any ideas why we have to be so fast?
I guess you want to get to them as soon as possible because, of course, we have our competitors, so we're not going to be the only ones that are going to be reaching out to them.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, we have competitors. If somebody's searching for homes online, there's probably a lot of agents that are calling them, not just us. They're searching lots of houses, right?
Oh,
So
mhm.
we need to be, it's called speed to lead. We want to do it as quickly as possible, reach out to that person. We want to get valid and complete contact information, name, address, phone number. And now all the things after this are about our system called Command. We're going to save it to Command and create an opportunity. So Shakira, who just joined us, she's learning about Command right now. If you're not, you know, some people don't use Command even in Keller Williams, but it's only for Keller Williams agents. So, you know, I'm hoping you join us and you'll start using Command too, because that's wonderful. But we want to save that contact info. And then I'm going to put them on something called a smart plan so that I remember to keep following up. I need to determine their motivation to buy so I can speak to it. And that's so super important because here's what happens. So let's just as an example, let's say I have a buyer who, you know, says they want to move because their house is too small. They own a house right now. It's too small. 3 kids, everybody's, you know, we only have 1 bathroom, you know, it's just too small for us. Later on in the process, when things get either, you know, they're seeing houses, they're not finding things they like, they're having to do so much work, I'm going to keep bringing up their motivation. You know, keep bringing up that motivation. Remember, I know you want to get into your house. I know your house is too small and you want to find something bigger. You know, I keep bringing that up and reminding them of why it's so important for them to buy. And then as soon as I can, I want to set an appointment, time and date for as soon as possible. Okay. And again, like Shakira said, we're going to do it as quickly as possible because we are not the only real estate agent talking to them. They're talking to a bunch of them. So we need to just be as quick as possible so that we have that transaction. Next one. All right, here's some ideas for the wish list. That page on the right side is a sample of what our buyer presentation looks like. In this thing called Command, I can print out a buyer presentation. And I've got about 5 different choices for how it looks, and I can customize it. So that's what that thing is on the right. But on the left, this is a wish list that's really useful for anybody. These are the types of things that I need to find out. Who will be living in it? Adults, children's, pets, right? So I kind of need to know how many people, like how many bedrooms I'm going to need. Is there going to be a dog that needs a yard? Do the kids need some yard space? What, you know, what, how much room do I need? What are the non-negotiables for your home? And it's funny, I was just talking to one of my agents that I work with today. A lot of times buyers, when they start out, their list of non-negotiables is this long. But then as they're shopping for homes, they sort of narrow it down to just the things that are most important. Because it's really hard to find a house that's exactly perfect and has everything they need. But usually there are some non-negotiables. That number of bedrooms usually is one of them, right? Because you've got a certain number of people who need a bedroom. So that's usually a non-negotiable. Price might be a non-negotiable if they are pre-approved for a certain amount and don't have the cash to go any higher. Can you think of any other non-negotiables that people might have?
Number of rooms.
Yep, number of rooms. That's great. I like it.
Mhm.
Yeah. What else?
Location.
Correct. Like, okay, that's a good one. I like that. Like maybe they work in a certain area and their non-negotiable might mean I need to live within a certain commuting distance of my workplace, right? Yep. Or area for their kids. Maybe a non-negotiable might be, I don't want my kids to have to move to a different school. So it's got to be
Yep.
somewhere in a school. Yeah.
Yep.
I like it. Okay. So here's some suggestions of how to say that. If you had to name your top 5 non-negotiables, what would they be? The reason we're doing it like this is to get them to prioritize. If someone has 20 non-negotiables, it's really hard to find them a home. If it's only 5, I probably can do it, right? Like I might find everything else, but maybe the house doesn't have a fireplace, you know, or whatever it has to be. One more person can fit in. Beyond your top 5 needs, what is something you really need, right? So I'm asking if I can get some extra things, you know, what would they be, right? Do you have any preference for the year the house was built? I'm surprised by how many people really do. I have had many buyers who really like old houses. They like the architectural details. They like the look of it. And then I've also had other people who say, I don't want anything built, you know, before the 90s. It's got to be pretty new. I don't want anything much older. So that's a really good question to ask. Do you need a house in moving condition, or are you willing to do some work on it? Right. So I'm working with a buyer right now who would not even consider painting it. Right. He doesn't want to do anything at all. Right. But then you get other buyers who are like, you know, I'm fine. I can do a little bit of work. It's okay. Hi, Bertina, welcome. Bertina's also with us, who just dropped in. So that's important to know, because when you're searching for homes for them to choose from, you want to make sure that you're not sending them something that doesn't match what you're looking for. When people visit your home, what should it say about you? That's a great open-ended question. Are there any specific features that you would add to make your next house feel like home? You know what I like about this one is that you're kind of bringing in like what they live in now. What do they like about what they live in now? You know, and that's a really good open-ended question. And then will you require accessibility options? I quite often have somebody who needs no steps. I've had that one a number of times. Can anybody think of some other questions that would be really good questions to ask a potential buyer? Grab my water, have a drink while you're telling
So
me.
it depends on the state. Well, we're in Maryland. I guess it would only be Maryland. So I guess like if they're open to a single family or a townhome,
Yep.
or even a home that has, because a lot of properties do have the HOA.
Yes.
And yeah, some people may not want to be in a property that
Yes.
has all that. So
Very, very true. And some people really want it because they've experienced like a neighbor who had like a junky yard or something, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, very good point. I like it, Shakira. Hey, what else can you guys think of? It's funny, I have this buyer that I was working with yesterday, and he's very typical of what happens with a lot of buyers, which is when we first met, he had a long list of all the things that had to have, right? And now he went looking at homes last weekend, and we looked at some homes yesterday. And now his list is changing, right? Like, so at first, he wouldn't even consider something if it didn't have a finished basement. But now that he's seeing like the homes in his price range, he's realizing that maybe he can get a nicer home if it doesn't have a finished basement. You know, so things will change.
Yep.
It's really,
Yep.
it's good to ask these questions up front, but throughout the process, we have to really keep an open mind and an open ears, really, and just listen to what that buyer is saying and see when they've changed their mind, because they almost certainly will. Okay. This is too tiny for you to read, but this is the process. It's really something, isn't it? These are the steps that a buyer goes through, and I'm not actually intending for you to be able to read every word on this, but it's a long list. You know, so you as a real estate agent, that's going to become so important to you to understand every single step of this process, what all of these things are what all of these things are that are happening, right? So that you are able to walk them through the whole thing. A lot of people at our office use our transaction coordinator, Julie, because she handles most of the things once it's under contract. And so instead of you having to do all of those, you know, scheduling means all of those tasks, she can do it for you, which is really great. But there's still quite a bit for you, you know, in just helping that buyer find the home. Find the home that makes the most sense. And then it has the main topics you can probably read: partner with an agent, get pre-approved for a loan, find your new home, make your offer and negotiate the terms, under contract before you close, closing day, what to expect, and then closing day. You know, so it's really, this is part of, again, this is part of our home buyer packet that we give out to all of our buyers so that they have all of the information. Any comments, questions, thoughts before I move on?
Nope.
Okay. All right. If you're at Keller Williams, you're going to share your app with them so that they can see what happens next. They can do their own home searching on the app. They can send info on neighborhoods. They can even request a showing from you using the app. It's pretty
wow.
cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's good.
really. Yeah, I like it. We at Keller Williams, we have two apps. We have one app that's for us to give to our buyers and sellers for them to use. And with it, they can search for homes. There's a mortgage calculator. They can request showings with us. They can do all sorts of things with it. And then we have our own app. We have something called the Command app that we can use. So it has all of our contacts in it. And it lets us call people through it, text people through it, see all of our notes, right? So if somebody calls me on the phone and I don't quite remember, you know, all the exact things of our last conversation, I can quickly see it right there on my phone. It's really great.
That's good.
It's such a lifesaver. All right, I wanted to give you this quote here. I am knowledgeable and caring. Oh, no, my Zoom window's in the way. I can't read my own thing. Let me get this out of the way. All right. Let's not do that. There we go. I am knowledgeable and caring and the best agent for these clients. They will appreciate my expertise and preparation and choose me to represent them as they buy up. The reason I put this in this slide is that so many of the newer agents that I work with start out with like a little bit of lack of confidence, you know, feeling like they don't know what to say, they don't know what to do, they don't want to, you know, they're afraid to work with the buyer because they don't know what's next. And so I put this in here because, you know, kind of our model here is we have a coaching department. All right, so there's 3 coaches here at Legacy, me, Alana, and Lachelle. There's 3 of us. And we're here to walk through a transaction with our agents. So our new agents who join coaching, you know, one of us is I almost every weekend, except when I'm away, like I get some kind of call, text, need some help from an agent, right? Because there's a lot to learn, you know, to actually take a buyer from start to finish. It's a big process. And in real estate, it's really important to kind of learn while we're doing it. You know, so instead of, some people want to wait until they've learned everything before they even call their first client, right? And we can't do that in real estate because if I get a contact today, the quickest, if I had a ready buyer, pre-approved, ready to go, we're probably looking at about 90 days before they go to settlement. You know, so you're probably gonna want your first check before that, right? Like you've spent all this money taking the class, you spent all this time taking the class. For those of you who are newer agents, and actually the people who aren't, we have a couple people in here that are with Keller Williams Legacy already. Still, you haven't been an agent that long. It would be nice to get that money back, right? That you've already spent. And you're continuing to spending on dues and things like that. So what we coach our agents to just start doing it. You know, just start doing it. We make calls together, we work together. And then when you have that buyer, we're gonna do it with you. You know, every day I'm having a meeting with somebody who just has a potential buyer, has a potential seller, and we're working on their contract together. I was telling you yesterday, I was with a buyer. Another agent was with me who's a new agent, so she could get experience. She's shadowing me on my appointment, and she's going to shadow me for that entire transaction with this buyer. She was there for our strategy session. She was there for showing homes. She's showing him homes without me because I'm going to be on vacation. And then when it comes time for the contract, we're going to write it together. We're going to do every step of the way together. You know, just because that, in our opinion, that's the best way to do it, is to have have someone who can walk alongside you as you're learning it yourself. So I wanted to just ask, like, what your expectations are for how quickly you want to try to get into production, like what you're hoping to do. Whoever wants to join in, I'd like to hear from everybody.
For me, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
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 But the problem I have though is I don't know why a lot of agents are complacent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like you say, you call the people, you know, you call them, they don't call you back for a week or two. I'm like, why?
Right. Yeah. But I mean, you could see what I did with you. I kept calling you, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm here. Okay.
Right, and you're here.
That's why I'm here. Okay.
Right,
Because you're persistent.
Right.
Okay?
I know. You have to be persistent, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are complacent. Why are they complacent though? Most of them.
I think, why are they complacent? I think they are worried that they don't want to pester somebody. You know, or they're afraid of rejection is my guess. Anybody else have thoughts on that? I'd love to hear it.
Rejection, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. And what else? What do you guys think?
They're lazy, I think.
You think lazy?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? What do you guys think? Why do agents not keep up with their calls and things? Follow up.
I mean, I can't speak for everyone, and I honestly wouldn't say it would be lazy. I would disagree with that because it all depends on, well, I know I can only speak for myself. I
There
mean,
you go. There you go.
I'm a very competitive person, and I
Good.
definitely understand the value being in the sales. Being in sales for a while, I understand how crucial it is to really keep up with your clients. But then life does happen, you know. I'm a mom of 2 boys. I also work outside of what I do here. So that could also, you know, you may have the mindset to want to keep up with that client ever so often, but then life just happens. And I feel as though that could be the case for some other agents as well, as they, of course, when you're new in, anything that's new, you definitely you do have that, I guess you have that fear to of rejection, as was mentioned prior, but that also could play into that, making those calls consistently as well. But life really does happen for many of us.
Sure. Okay. I like it. Yeah, any other thoughts from anybody else? Anybody else want to say anything?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. We were talking about why agents don't follow up. You know, so I put this quote up to encourage people to keep in touch with their clients. And we're talking about like why, I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but I shared a statistics. It might have been before you came in. The statistic is that about 80% of people say that they would use their real estate agent again. So they bought or sold a home and 80% of them say they would use the same one. But then it turns out statistically, the actual number that do is 17% actually use that agent again.
Yep.
And I think a lot of it is because their agent did not keep in touch.
Yep.
And they just forgot who they were, you know?
So I feel like having the right system.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
I feel like having the right system. I am a
Yes.
leasing agent, so I follow up every single day. It is time consuming. It is
Yes.
tedious. So it is a lot of work. It's not easy, but follow up is definitely key because when I follow up with all my prospects, they love it. Like and that's how they remember you because you're the one that keep calling them. So
Yep.
you have to put a time aside to follow up and have a good system because
Yep.
I don't remember to follow up half of these people that I call, but because I have a system that reminds me, that's
Yes.
what helps me.
You're gonna be great. I'm telling you. Like if you have that attitude,
Yep.
you're gonna be awesome.
Yep.
I just know it. So if you end up joining here, we have a system called Command. And what Command does is we can put people in something called a smart plan. So I can
Okay.
choose how often I'm following up with them. You know,
Okay.
so somebody like a past client, I probably call once a quarter.
Mhm.
Somebody who wants to buy next year, I might call once a month.
Okay.
Some people I call every 2 weeks. Some people I call every week. Some people I'm calling way more often than that even, you know, so each.
And that's
That's
what I
good.
do now.
That's good. That's
I
very
use
good.
this system called CRM.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I use
Yep.
CRM
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
that's
so
I
Command is
follow
our
up.
CRM. Yeah, so you get a free CRM here.
Oh,
But
okay.
Part of your thing that everybody uses. It's more than a CRM, it's a CRM, but we also use it. Like today I was teaching a class on how to run a Facebook ad through it. And
Ooh.
then last week I was teaching a class on how to use Twilio to text through it. And then I taught a class on how to make open house flyers in it. And you know, so when I was saying in the beginning, I'm a coach here, but I'm also a technology trainer. So I'm teaching everybody how to use the system. And gosh, if you just use that system for what it's designed for, it's amazing how much easier it is to
It
just
is.
on track. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's good.
I know.
That is good
That's good.
CRMs. Yeah, really good. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Yep.
You know, but that's kind of what you know, your first year of real estate is hard, you know, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It is hard because most people are also doing another full-time job. About 60% of the agents in our office here have another job. Okay, so it's really common. You've got something else going on too, and you're trying to fit real estate in. It's, you know, it's a juggling act, you know. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But I'll tell you, it's really fun to see people go through that time. Like the first 90 days, it's just so much stuff, right? So much to learn, so many things, right? But then you start to feel a little bit more comfortable. And then once you have your first transaction closed, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable because then you'll have been through the process once. And every transaction, you'll just learn that process a little better. Most people feel pretty comfortable by the end of 3 transactions. That's sort of a good number of, you know, for where your comfort is, you know, in this. Yeah, have any of you set some goals for where you'd like to be? I heard Michael say his goal earlier.
Oh yeah. As I have my goal set. So let me ask you if I may. excuse me. Your top agent, and for Keller Williams,
Okay.
how much they make? The top three.
The top three have teams, I don't know how much they make, but they make, there's a lot, the commission numbers are high, but I don't know how much their expenses are.
No, not
I-
just not exact amount, just around how much.
Yeah, so I can't say that off the top of my head, and I'm not
Oh,
even
okay.
sure I'm allowed to.
Okay, okay.
I'll say this, like agents make all different amounts of money. There's really a big broad range here in how much people make, and not
Okay.
everybody has the same goal. Some people, a lot of agents that are in here that have a full-time job also don't want to leave their full-time job and want to do, we have a lot of agents who just want to do one transaction a month.
Oh, wow.
And they're happy because
Wow.
they have their job also, and this is just an additional. We have a lot of those. And then we have other agents who want to make lots of money, right?
Yep, yep.
And want to get full-time. We have a lot of agents whose goal is to leave their full-time job and just do real estate. And many who have. About 40% of our agents are only in real estate. About 60% have another full-time job here at this office.
Oh, wow. How many people in your office? How many?
There are about 300 that are with our brokerage, but if you
Wow.
ever come in here, you're not going to see that many people because there are a lot of agents who only come in every so often. There's a group, actually, if you are in my coaching program, you're probably in here a few times a week. I encourage all the people in our program to come in, especially for newer agents, because I want people to meet each other and be able to start working together. Like, for example, last week I had 3 new agents who had joined our brokerage, and I had given all 3 of them the homework assignment of going and previewing some homes. Okay, so that's a homework assignment I always give new agents, is to just go to some open houses, schedule a showing and go look at some houses just to get familiar with how to use lockboxes, but also to get familiar with the market. Well, there were 3 agents who were doing the same thing. So I connected all 3 of them together and say, hey, why don't you guys go all do this together? It'd be way more fun to do it as a group of 3, right?
Okay.
So that's the kind of things. Or another agent needed some script practice. They wanted to practice their dialogue. And we encourage all of our agents to practice 15 minutes a day with a partner.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so what we do, people pair up and you just meet somebody here and you practice. So maybe on Mondays you practice with one person, Tuesdays at something else, and it's 15 minutes a day. It's not a big deal, just quickly going over your script, going over what you're saying so that it becomes more comfortable,
Right.
So we're really here for our new agents. What we really want is people to come in when they can. All of our classes, when we are able to, are both in person and Zoom. So that if you're at work or something like that, you can just stop it. You don't have to drive all the way over here. You can just pop into Zoom. There are some classes that don't make sense to put on Zoom. For example, I recently did a workshop using DocuSign, which is the thing that we use to sign electronically.
Yep.
And we needed everybody in here so that I could look on everybody's computer. So sometimes something is not on Zoom, but the vast majority are on both.
Awesome.
We also do something that's super fun. We're doing
So-
this thing now where once a month we've been doing a whole day of lead generation. So
Wow.
one of the things we do here is we really think lead generation is really important. And we encourage our agents to have 10 hours a week of lead generation.
Wow.
The lead generation could be phone calling, it could be holding an open house, it could be doing a home buyer, whatever it is where you're having real estate conversations. But about once a month, we're starting to have a full day of lead generation where people come in here, everybody's walking around making phone calls, and we have leads to give away. So if you don't have somebody to call, we're going to hand you some leads that you can call.
Interesting.
Yeah, what's been really fun about it is agents who've done this have told me at the end that they have never talked to that many people about real estate in one day. Like they had tried to do it, and some agents had been here for a year and had never had a day like that where they had that many conversations. But one agent I was talking to got 2 appointments out of it, so it was really, really worthwhile for her. you
Okay.
know? Yeah, so, yeah, we really hope that, you know, we can get, our goal in coaching is to get people there to have their first transaction in their first 90 days. That's our primary goal, is we want 90 days, get your first transaction, get something under contract.
Very
But
good.
it definitely is not up to us completely. It's mostly up to the agent to
That's
do
correct. That's
do the
correct.
activities, but we're here for support, you know?
Okay.
So I'm gonna kind of wrap it up now because I kind of finished that much, but I want to open this up to questions and just any comments, questions, anything like that before we wrap it up.
No, one last question I have, Kristen, is in terms of mentorship, right?
Yeah.
Do you have choices as to who you want to mentor you? Do you have a choice?
Yeah, so there's 3 coaches, and we kind of have to work together. Like, I'll be on vacation next week, so if somebody needs something, they're gonna have to ask one of the other 2 coaches because I'll be off. But in the beginning, you're paired with one of the coaches. If there's some reason you don't mesh with somebody, you can certainly move around. And then after about a month, so usually I have one-on-one meetings with the people I'm coaching with at the beginning. And then we shift to, we have coaching groups where you're with a group of other agents who have the same number of transactions. We have a 0 to 3 transaction group. But if all of those agents are also meeting with me when they have a need, it just might not be every single week. You know, it's more likely, okay, I have a buyer. Now I need some help getting this contract together. And then in addition to that, I always give people homework because what I'm trying to do is get people doing the thing that's going to help them most for where they're about to be. So for people who haven't had a transaction yet, my homework that I really focus on is learning those contracts and learning how to write an offer and how to write an offer quickly. Because sometimes you might show a house on Saturday and the offers are due 10 a.m. Sunday. You got to be able to do it quick. You know, so what we do is we practice. My agents pretend that I'm the buyer and they write offers that I sign them. And then we go over, okay, here's what we need to change, you know. Did that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You bet. Anything else I can answer? All right, well, some of you in this class are already parts of Legacy, who are agents who have joined us. Some of you are people who have not joined us yet. I want to really extend an invitation to come in and take a look. Just come in and check out the environment, check out our space. Our address is 1104 Kenilworth Drive. We're right in Towson. And we have the entire 4th floor. So it's a big space with plenty of room for our agents to, you know, spread out and work here whenever they need to, printing, you know, everything that you need here. And I would love you to come by when you can sometime.
Do you have to schedule?
So if you could text me, then I'll make sure somebody's here, just because I would hate for you to come in and not have me to give you a tour, you know? So I'm gonna put my cell phone number in the chat. And then
I think I have it.
I think I have it. I have it
oh,
too.
I'm sure you do, because you've seen that I
You don't give up.
You follow.
You don't give up at all.
That's right. So
That's
that's the
good.
cell phone number. But again, I'll be on vacation next week. But even if you wanted to come next week, I could still have somebody else show you the office.
Okay.
I'm in the office Monday through Thursday, and I usually work from home on Fridays. But if you need to come in on a Friday, someone else here can give you a tour of the place. But I want to make sure we have somebody who can, you know, show you around and that kind of thing.
Awesome. Okay, great.
Yeah, awesome. Well, gosh, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. Next week we have a class every Wednesday at 4 that is appropriate for newer agents, and I think there's a couple of others next week too. I sent out you should have gotten an email from me with a few classes in it next week. All 3 of those will be in person or Zoom, and I would love it if you could join us.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.